Right, doing a little video today, a little install guide for people, seeing as got quite a lot of interest on Facebook. This is to install fibre optic ambient lighting, aftermarket stuff. On mine is an F23, an M235i. Yes, it's a vert, so I know there's a lot of vert haters out there, but hey ho. But anyway, so I'm going to do this little video in two parts and then amalgamate them together. I'll go through a little sort of list of bits that you need. First of all, you're going to need some tools. You're going to need some, possibly need a digital meter, but because I'm going to explain to you how to do it, you probably won't need it, but I'll explain how to use it if you've got a different model. Some insulation tape, pair of snips, little socket set with a T20 bit in it, start bit. Possibly need some 3M tape. I'll go through that if you need it. Obviously a Stanley knife, some cable ties. These are the splice clips that I got from Halfords, which basically means there's going to be no cutting of any original BMW cables, which is ideal because I didn't want to do that. Pair of long nose pliers, and of course your trusty plastic trim tool. And this is the product that you get. I mean, it's only just a little example of it. That's the plastic housing that it goes in, and then your fibre optic cable comes like that. So basically what you need to do is obviously on your door panel, let me zoom out a little bit, it's going to be sitting in along here. So ideally what you want to do is you want to measure your housing length, so sort of put it in as though it's going to go, and then feed the fibre optic cable into the housing unit. Right, sorry I got interrupted there by a lovely young lady at the hotel. Yeah, so basically I'm going to try and do this whilst holding the phone. Yeah, so basically get your fibre optic, and then you slide it in there, just slide it all the way down. Obviously you cut it to whatever length you need it for the door, and that's that. Right, so I'm just going to pause this a second and we'll get to taking the door card off. Right, so first thing you need to do when taking the door card off is you need to get your plastic trim tool. You need to take this bit of trim off, and you also need to take the hand trim off, the hand grip trim off. This is very easy to do, so you just get that edge of your plastic trim tool, put it in there, give it a couple of clicks all the way around, pull the handle out, and it just slides out. So that's that one done. This one here, there's a little gap underneath that the trim tool sits in. So if you slide it in there and then just twist, work your way along, and it just pops off like that. Reason you need to do this is the door card is fixed by 5 screws, and that's why you need the socket set with the T20 bit in it. You've got one screw in here, you've got one in here, so that's 2 in the handle, 1 in the door opener, and then you've got 2 underneath. One is just there underneath the speaker, and the other one is down there. So I've taken these out already just to speed things up a little bit, but obviously all you need to do is get your TX20 bit, just undo those, and that's that. Right, so once you've done that, you need to get your trim tool, and also depending on whether you've got aftermarket pins or not, door pins, you need to take them out. If you've got standard ones, you'll be all right. So pull that off. Right, now the best way to work this, I find, is to work from this edge at the top downwards, and then along the bottom like that, and then back up the other side. So I'm going to start popping them off for you, and it's easy to do. Just put your trim tool in and just pop. You'll see them work your way along and you hear it pop. Don't be afraid, like, you don't have to give it too much welly, but it, you know, you do have to prise it a little bit, but don't worry, you're not going to break anything. Right, I'm just going to move my tools on the ground. because I'm going to need to rest the door card there. Right, so once you've gone along down the bottom and then, sorry, back up the other side, the top rail has not got any poppers on it, but it's like pushed in to clips. Now they just pop straight out. It does need a little bit of pulling around. Don't worry, you're not going to break anything. I'll show you the best way I do it. Obviously other people do their own way, but I grab either end. So I grab this end with one hand and I grab that end with the other at the top, and then I just sort of twist it, and it'll pop straight off. Look, and you'll see what happens. And it pops straight off. So there you go, that's popped straight off. Right, so I'm going to pause it there a second. Right, I'm going to try and do this one-handed, and as iPhone videos don't zoom out, bear with me on the camera angles, etc. Right, so I'm holding the door card, I'm just resting it on my knees at the moment, so it's all popped off. Basically you've got to undo a couple of things, really easy to do. Right, so this bit here is your door lever handle. All you got to do is, let me zoom out a little bit, put your finger on the top, thumb underneath the bottom, just lift like that and it pops out. So you can drop that, so that goes down there. Right, so there's that one done. Also, you've got this little clip here, which is your standard ambient lighting. Just pull that out, just pull it, that's all you've got to do. Right, so that's that one. And then down the bottom, now you can move it a little bit because you've freed up a few things. Down at the bottom, you've got, you see that, that's your footwell lights. So just pull that, give it a little bit of a wiggle, and that comes out. So that's that one. Right, now, plastic trim tool. Where's my plastic trim tool? Right, it's down there. Bear with me. Sorry, this is the first video I've ever done, so you're gonna have to bear with me. Right, see these little white clips that sort of hold it into the door card, hold the looms into the door card? I just find it easier when dealing with it just to pop them off using that part of your trim tool, so then that gets out of the way. And there's also one here, so we pop that off. Easier said than done. Right, okay, come on you little bugger. Right, okay, I'm going to pause it here and we're going to reconvene in a second. Before I show you what's going on in the back, we've disconnected some cables on the back. We've not disconnected all of them. We've left the two that do the mirror, I think it's the motor or something like that, but we've left those two in there only because I did manage to get them out, but they're a pain in the fucking arse to get out, and it's a little bit difficult to explain, but you can do it without doing it. Right, now this is the part where some of you may decide to abandon ship. Believe me, I was very hesitant to do this, but I couldn't find any other way of getting the fibre optic cable through the door card. There's no, I tried going through the speaker thing and taking the speaker cover off and then going through the side bit where the speaker is. It just didn't look right. It looked like someone had bodged it. None of the panels that I can tell can come off, but I'm not saying that's gospel, so if I'm proved wrong, I'm proved wrong. So if you can find a way, by all means do it yourself. But what I did, now I've done it, it's not noticeable. I mean, you can tell. So right, you have the door, you have the speaker bit here, and obviously you're going to be running it all the way along. Let me zoom out a little bit, all the way along in here, and it comes round, and if you can see, it then comes down here behind the door handle and goes down to there. Right, so basically what I had to do was I had to drill, and very hesitantly, a very small hole right at the bottom behind the door card using a battery drill and I think it was a 2.5mm drill bit. Little tip for you, because obviously we're drilling through leather, use a masonry bit. This bit's too big, I can't find the drill that I actually use to do it, but use a masonry bit because they're not sharp, so it's not going to chew the leather up whilst you're drilling it. If you use a wood bit or a metal drill bit, they're extremely sharp, and just as soon as you turn the battery drill on, my guess is it would just churn away and you'd end up ruining your leather. So I've basically drilled a small hole in the incision bit. I mean, you can hardly tell that. I mean, there's a tiny little mark there, but other than that you can hardly tell, and that's going to be covered by our fibre optic cable anyway. So some of you may abandon ship at this point because you don't want to drill it, but hey, I did it because I like the job. So right, so now onto the back of the door card. So bear with me. At the moment, obviously the back of the door card's still fixed by these two cables down here, which are in the door. So basically what I'll do, because we've disconnected everything, it's quite manoeuvrable. So I'm sat in the passenger seat, and I'm just going to tilt, and literally it's sat on my lap. So I'm sat here and it's just sat on my lap, resting on the door. It's not going to go anywhere. I ideally always put a piece of cardboard on the floor because obviously with leather trim, if you do need to balance it on the floor, you don't want any scuff marks on your leather, so always place it on a piece of cardboard or piece of, I don't know, your footwell, foot mats or anything like that, just anything that's going to stop it hitting the concrete. Right, so reason that there's tape on here is because these are the two cables that I marked with tape because I needed to know which ones were what. That one, just forget about it, don't worry. This one is connected to your electric window switch. Easy enough, so that just pops out. So squeeze it, I say it easily just pops out. Hang on a minute, bear with me. Easy enough to do when you've got two hands, but when you've got one hand it's a little bit difficult. Right, so right, bear with me on this. Hang on a second. Right, I'm gonna try. There we go, popped. Right, so this is the cable that feeds your electric windows. Right, it's got three cables on it. It did have all this black stuff going right the way down, but because we're going to splice it, which basically means we're not going to cut it, I've peeled that back using a Stanley knife, so that we've got a little bit more cable, a little bit more access, and then we're not putting the splicers right up next to the connector. So I'm just going to mount the camera again. Right, hang on a second, actually before we do that, right, this is the little LED that you get given with the set. It's already pre-shrink tubed, got live and a negative on it, that's it. So all you need to do is connect those. Right, so this is how we go through the splicing method. For those of you who aren't electrically minded, do not worry, because this is a piece of piss, as they say. Right, I'm just wondering how we can mount this. Right, bear with me a second. No, it's going to be too far away. Okay, right, I may have to do this one-handed, people. Right, unless I can balance my phone somehow. Right. Ah, that's probably better. Right, so I'm not saying this is gospel, but majority of the time, I'm an electrician by trade, but a normal household electrician. And for me, earth is always green and yellow. But in cars, from what I can gather from reading up, brown is always your ground. They call it ground because it's mounted to your metalwork, and it's basically your negative, but we call it ground. They call it ground, should I say. So, right, so splicing, absolute piece of piss. Let me take the camera out. Splice clips, get the red ones because they're the thinnest cabled ones, from Alfred's, £1 a packet I think, or £2 at most. Right, so let's open this. Right, so this is them basically. Basically you feed the cables through there, Let me zoom out a little bit. So it's, yeah, so you feed the cables through there. So you feed that one through there, and then we're going to put the black on that, because our black is our negative, or our earth as we call it, or our ground. You feed them through there, and then you use a pair of pliers or a pair of needle lows, and you basically squeeze that metal piece down, and what that does is it traps the cables, both cables inside. It doesn't cut them. It just basically, if you can see, it's got two tiny little sort of incisions in it. That's where it goes over the cable, and basically it sort of cuts the insulation of the cable, so that the metal then connects with the copper wire without cutting the copper wire. So then obviously then you've got conductivity through that one into that one, which is what we're going to connect to. So I'm going to just show you how easy it is to do. Let me get this like that. Right, so first things first, pull this apart a little bit. Oh, I've broken that one. That's good, isn't it? Like I say, this is my first install video, so please bear with. Right, so that one's got a piece of plastic in it, as you can see, blocking it, so we're not going to use that one. Third time's a charm. So basically we are going to slide that one in, slide that one right in, give it a little bit of opening. What you might need to do is get a screwdriver, just a flathead, and just pop it in like that. And as you can see, now that black brown cable is in that section there, and it is in that section there. Right, so that's the first part done. Now we put our black cable on the other side. So you've got the brown cable on one side. Hang on a second, bear with me. Oh, this one's right. Okay, I see what they've done. Right, okay, start again. Right, so the first one we want to do is the black one goes in. That little bit of plastic that I thought, can you see that little bit of plastic blocking it? That little plastic, I just thought it was, you know, manufacturing problem. But basically what that is that's a stop for your black cable to go in. So black cable goes in first, up to that plastic bit. You see, and it stops. I don't know if you can see that. So trying to get the angle right for you. So it's like a buffer, can you see, so that you're going to get no cable coming through. Right, so that's the black cable in. So then we hold that, and then the brown cable goes in. Easier said than done with one hand. Right, so brown cable is in. You can see, you can move it along like that, means that it's in the gap. Right, so now push the black cable in, and you're going to hit that stop. Yeah. Right, so now what you need to do is get yourself a pair of pliers, one side on the front, one side on the back, and squeeze as hard as you can. Right, so as you can see, that is almost flat, and then that clip just clips over like that, and that's your splice done. Easy as that. So that's one side. Right, so that's, we've done our earth or our ground or whatever you want to call it. Right, now what I had to do is, because I couldn't find any wiring diagrams online, or I could find some but not for the F22 or the F23, to find out which cable was live, because all the colour codings are just, well, I'm a normal electrician and mine's are brown, blue and green and yellow. So when I came across all of this, I was like, what the fuck? Anyway, so easiest way to do is, I've already done it for you, but if you've got a different model, on this clip, you can see it's got, if I pull it out a little bit, see these little inserts? Got one there, and one there. They're labelled 3, 2, 1. Get your multimeter, put it onto volts, so it'll measure your volts, and you put one cable on one little prong on your ground, so that you've always got ground. Right, engine is off at this point, ignition, everything is off. Right, so you put your one prong in your ground, always keep that in there, and then put the other prong in number 2, take it out, see if there's any voltage there. If there's no voltage, move on to the next one. So you go into number 3. Now I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think 3 is a permanent live, which basically means that when the engine is off, it's always live. We do not want to go into that one. Actually, number 3 is the one we want to go into, but anyway, we do not want to go into the permanent live, because that basically means that our neon lights will be permanently on whether the ignition's on or not. So from what I can gather, we've got 3 cables here. You see, one's brown, which is our earth or our ground. You've got one which is blue and grey, and one which is what I say, grey and a red, as best I can tell, grey and a red. From what I can tell, one's obviously your earth, one is obviously your windows up and down, so that's your live. So obviously when you make the switch, it then sends juice to your your windows to go up and down. The other one, which is the one we're connecting into, is what I can tell is the feed to your illumination of the actual switch. You know, the little orange glow that illuminates the switch at night? That's the feed that we want, because then that is connected to the dimmer switch, which is next to your headlights. So that's the one that we want to go to. But basically, to test which one it is, you want to go 2 prongs on your multimeter. One's always on your ground. Turn the ignition on, turn your headlights on, and then test one prong on the brown, which is your earth, and then test both of these 2. Now it's a bit difficult for me to do, but what you want to do is, if you've got another person with you, find which one is live when the headlights is on, then switch the headlights off. If then that becomes dead, as in there's no electric there, that's pretty much the one we want. But you can also check to see whether it's dimmed by turning the headlights back on, putting your prongs on there, and it should come up 12 volts DC. And then if you adjust the dimmer, you should get a drop in voltage, because that's basically what happens. As far as I can tell, you get a drop in voltage, which then makes the lights dim. So anyway, that's how you test to see which one's the dimmer and which one's not. You do not want to connect to the permanent live. You want to connect to the live that is connected to your headlights, so that when your lights switch on, you turn your lights on, whether it be automatic or you turn them on manually, the neons will come on after that. So I'm going to go through the splicing process again. So we get another splice. So this is the one that I've marked, which is the one we want. So basically there's our splice again. This one, oh no, that has got a dead end. Right, so the dead end is that side. So we want to go red cable in first, up to the buffer stop. And then we put the other one through it. Right, so you can see the red cables, that one's in like that. So hold that in place, push the red cable in as far as it will go. Easier said than done. Right, once that's in, get your pliers, either side. Just make sure that that's in. Ready? So make sure that that's up to the buffer. Give it a real good squeeze. And then what you should do, which I didn't show you on the before, oh, it's falling out. Brilliant. Okay, right, so we're going to start that one again. That's what I was going to tell you before. You always need to make sure that your connections are made. So pretty good that I've made a mistake, because then that shows you for when you make a mistake. Right, let's try again. Hopefully we get this one if I don't start throwing things around. Right, so first one goes in. Right, so first one goes in. Sorry for the camera angle, peeps. It's a lot easier to do when you're not trying to look at the phone screen and make sure you've got the right angle. Right, so hopefully that's in. Squeeze down. Give it a good squeeze. See, and then give it a pull. That one's definitely in, and that one's definitely in. Right, so grip, squeeze, connector back, and that's it. That's done. Electrically wise, that is done. See, so no cables cut, no nothing. Okay, it doesn't look massively pretty, but at least we haven't fucked around with any of the OEM wiring in regards to cutting it or anything. So right, so basically now I'm just going to pause it a second, have a quick fag, and then I shall get back and show you what's what. But basically, just before I go, what we want to do is just push that connector back in. It's nice and tight. Perfect. Right, so our LED is now connected, ready to go. So what you can do, actually, just quickly before I do, in a second, just trying to figure out how to do this one-handed. Right, all being well, as long as I've done it right, which I hope I have made the connection. Right, just quickly, I'm going to turn the ignition on to see. Yeah, there we go. Right, so ignition's on because my lights are on automatic. If I turn my lights off, they go off, and then if I turn them on and then use the brightness wheel, you can see that they get brighter and non-brighter. Right, so right, ignition back off. There we go. Right. Okay, bear with me a second, chaps. I'll be back in 2 seconds. Whilst I'm doing this, I know it's bad, but hey ho. Right, here, can you see that is where the little hole that we drilled comes through. Don't worry, nothing gets snagged on it. There's nothing on the door that it hits or anything like that. Right, obviously you've pre-cut your plastic, what I call plastic housing. I don't know the correct terminology for it. You've got your fibre optic cable, and then you've got your housing which sits in the groove. You've already measured the housing to however long you need it. Before you feed the fibre optic cable through your plastic trim or through your plastic housing, what I did, which I found easier, is get your fibre optic cable, don't cut it, you get it in a massive long length, and feed it through this hole, and we should get it coming through the other side. Can you see that? Right, perfect. So what you need to do is feed a load through there, obviously longer than you need. Keep going with it. I'm just wondering, I've used a example piece here. I don't know if this piece is long enough, so bear with me a second. So now you see it coming through there, so then we're just going to measure it, quick measurement, to see whether I've used the correct size, correct length should I say. No, I need to put another piece through. Okay, bear with me, but you get the idea anyway. 2 seconds. So I've fed the correct length what I need to go through. got a little tab here. So here is your LED. So all you need to do is literally pop it in the end like that. What I did as well, just to make sure, is get some insulation tape, tape it around the end, just so that you know it's not going to pop out. So bear with me, let's see if I can do this for you. So get yourself a little bit of insulation tape, cut off. Make sure it's firmly in there. Bit on the shrink tube, then a bit on that. Basically that is just there to hold it in place. So hopefully, could do a little bit more to be fair. Right, so hopefully that is not going to go anywhere. Right, now basically we're done on the back, so just need to feed that a little bit more through there. Now putting the door card back on, so we pop that clip back in for the window switch you saw. So now I'm going to have to try and do this one-handed. So you see this plastic clip, hang on a minute, let me manoeuvre myself. Right, so plastic clip goes back in there like that. Now what I'm going to quickly do is, only me because I'm pedantic, just going to put a couple of cable ties just to hold it into place so that it's all a little bit neat and not swinging in the wind like a washing line. So bear with me. This is easier said than done, one-handed. Don't want to go too tight. Obviously then get your snips, just make sure that is tight. It looks like it's going to rain in a minute. Perfect, it's just what I want, so I best hurry up. Great British weather. Right, so that's cable tied in there. Right, so now we need to connect, remember the footwell light, so they can only go in one way, so don't worry. If you try to push it in and it doesn't clip in, just turn it around and it'll go in. So that clips in there, and then you've got this white plastic one which goes back in the hole like that. Right, now you've got the door opener. One bit of advice, make sure that that is still connected, because if you put it on and put the door card on and it's not, you ain't going to get the door open. So what you need to do is close the door handle like that. I'm going to try and balance my phone. Oh, this is only going to end in tears. Hang on a second. So with the door handle closed, you then get this. You see there's a little indentation there, that slides in there. Basically pops back into place. Then what I do, just double check, pull the door handle like so, make sure that that's coming down. Right, nearly there, and it is looking like it's about to rain. Look at that. Right, okay, so last one we need to connect is the factory ambient lighting that goes into your door handle. That's about as light as a fucking, well, I don't know what, but nothing. Right, oh, this is a bit difficult trying to do this one-handed. Right, so it's quite tight, to be fair, but that just clips back in. Right, so now I'm just going to mount the camera. Hang on a second. Let's get the right angle. Right, okay, so all the cables are connected. Get the metal piece for your door. Make sure that that goes up through the hole. You then offer your door card up, and you can see in the corner there where there is the little white clips, round clips, and you can see where the hole is that it needs to line up to. So just holding it into place, have a little look. Yep, that's about right. Start at the top, push in, and then if you can see, I'm going all the way along the top. Hang on a second. That's it. Clip it all the way in the top. Work your way down. Go all the way around the bottom. You can hear it clipping into place, so it's fine. Right, so that is your door card back on. So all you need to do now is replace the screws in here, 2 in the door arm, and 2 underneath. So I'm just going to do that quickly. Be back in a second. All you need to do is pull that out, slide that in, and it just clips back in. Handle piece, easy to do two-handed. Let me see if I can balance the phone. Right, okay, so that's clipped back on. Right, so all we're left with at the moment is our fibre optic cable coming out of there, out of our little hole. Right, so tiny little bit of oomph there, but never mind, we'll sort that out in a minute. It is literally about to piss down, so I might have to do this bit with the door shut in a minute, but we'll carry on. Right, so now we need our piece of trim, should I say, our piece of clear plastic housing, whatever you want to fucking call it, that we pre-measured to go round all this bit. See? Right, so now we need to feed the fibre optic cable into our plastic trim. Just keep feeding it. Now I'm going to switch off. I'm not going to bore you with me feeding it all the way through, so bear with me 2 seconds and I'll be right back. Now we've fed it all the way through. We've got some at the end slack. You can probably see a little bit of 3M tape that I put on the end there, just because at the very end sometimes it likes to pop out, so I just put a tiny bit of 3M tape on it there. Now all I need to do, or all you need to do, is obviously the fibre optic cable, it's got like a lip on it. That lip needs to sit and go into the fold. Easier said than done one-handed. So all we need to do just to start with is just do it roughly. It is a bit of a pain in the arse because sometimes it does love to pop out. But you can see what I'm doing. Put the thin piece in there and then just work your way along like that, squeezing it in. Right, so we've got it in halfway. So what I suggest we do now is, what I did to make sure that it ain't gonna pop out, is get your plastic trim tool. Basically, you just want to push, hang on a minute, I'm gonna have to readjust the camera. Right, right, so, let's zoom in a little bit. If I show you a little bit of it, oh, it's really gonna rain in a minute. Sorry, bear with me. Camera angles, I know it's terrible. Right, so what you need to do is, like I said, get your plastic trim tool. I've put mine in already, only because I thought I was recording and I wasn't. And now I've lost my plastic trim tool. Oh, God, where is it? Oh, come on. There we go. Right, so you need to place it in the groove, and then what I did was get this end of your plastic trim tool and just go along it like that and push it in the gap, making sure it's nice and tight all the way around. And on these corners, it's a little bit difficult. Sometimes you have to turn your trim around the other way and just push it in. Make sure it's all nice and level depth-wise all the way along, because it does show when it's illuminated if it's not. Not an issue, just pull it back out and redo it again if need be. So that is our fibre optic cable installed. As you can see, mine's not completely fit. I'm not happy with mine at the moment. I reused a different bit of plastic, so, and it's just not long enough. So, but you need to measure yours obviously and make sure that yours is correct. Right, so this is ignition time. So switch the ignition on, turn my lights on. She's on. So she comes on with the lights, and I'm just going to show you dimming wise. So I'll reach across, so you can dim it down with the dimmer and then dim it back up again. Show you a bit better, so you can dim it down or dim it back up again. And then when you turn the ignition off and your lights off, there you go, all done. Thank you very much for watching. Sorry this is a bit haphazard, it's my first video I've done. And it's a bit like bitty, but hey ho, hopefully you guys get the idea. And there we go. Thank you very much.